Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another SolarWinds briefing for 2020. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. We really do appreciate it. My name is John O'Callaghan. I look after international product marketing, and I'm based in Cork, Ireland. And delighted today to be joined by Sir Owen Murphy, who's recently been knighted by the Crown. So welcome, Owen. How are you keeping?
I'm very good. Ever since I got knighted, well, my outlook on life has definitely improved, and it feels that
How's your trusty steed?
My trusty steed is okay. He's down the car park. He has his hay and water. He's fine. And since I got a proper introduction, I think it's only fair that John gets a proper introduction as well. You might have heard that song at the start of the webinar. Previously, John was actually a DJ before he came to SolarWinds. John O'Callaghan, a big techno DJ in Ireland, now after moving into a PMM role. So it's a bit of a change.
I was known as Rockin' Jono many moons ago. It was a fantastic career. But eventually I saw the light and decided to get into product marketing instead. Much more exciting. Okay, so very good. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send them through on the Q&A or the chat box, and we will do our best to answer all of those before the end of the event. And if you're already using some of the technology we're going to talk today, or any SolarWinds technology for that matter, please feel free to send us your feedback. And the best place you can do that is by registering on the SolarWinds TWAC online community. Strange name, but a great place. Owen, you know the background to that the naming of TWAC, yeah?
I think it actually comes from the old Batman TV show. So when Batman and Robin were fighting the Joker and all those guys, they couldn't actually show the bad guys getting hit. So instead, just before the punch would be thrown, it would come up like a pow or a thwack.
Yeah,
and I think
it was Wham. And that's where Wham got their name from that as well. George Michael and the guy that no one can remember his name. The other guy, yeah, George and the other guy. So jump on that. It's a great place, great resource. You can get lots of information, put in feature requests, provide your feedback, etc. And if you'd like to request a one-to-one demo for any of the technologies you see today, please feel free to ask for that as well, and we will organize it at a time suitable. So today's topic, we're going to look at optimizing critical resources with virtualization management. And of course, this is key because one thing around virtualization we talk about a lot is virtualization sprawl. I used to work for EMC when EMC acquired VMware back in 2005, I think it was. And very quickly, one of the big challenges that came up was managing the resources and making sure that the resources were available for the critical applications and so on, not being tied up at idle machines or VMs being requested by developers who always wanted at least a terabyte of storage on their machine. And they never used it. They used maybe like 10 megabytes of it or something. And why is it important to optimize critical resources? Well, there's lots of good reasons for that. Here's one of them. So this is in relation to network monitoring, but the same will go for cross IT operations management. So studies have shown that larger enterprises typically have somewhere between 8 and 25 monitoring tools just for the network. Right? So, Owen, I'm sure you talk to a lot of customers, and what kind of average number are you hearing from customers out there?
That would actually be close to what I'm hearing. I'd have to run some reports and look over my notes to get the exact figure, but if I was to guess, I would say what you're seeing on the screen there is very, very close.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about all the different pillars of IT operations management, so we have the application, we've got the database, we've got all the infrastructure levels, we've got the network, we've got security, we've got service management. You put all those together, and it could be mind-boggling the amount of products and tools that people are using to try and keep an eye on their environment. And of course, complexity drives up cost, and it's also going to drive up risk. So some of the impacts that people can see of fragmented visibility, as we like to call it, are these ones. So operational would be your kind of minimal, or the lowest level of impact, where you may have to divert a team's resources from a project to go and fix some issue. The next one up is financial. So some application or website may be down due to some issue. Could be the application, could be the database. We're not sure what the root cause might be, for example, and it might impact some revenue stream or a service delivery stream in the public sector, for example. And that can be fairly catastrophic. You can imagine if Amazon.co.uk or .com went down for a week, that would be a fairly interesting impact on Amazon share price, I suspect. And then the highest level of impact is reputational, when an outage or an extended outage hits the press, and everybody's reading it on Twitter feeds and on mainstream news, etc., etc. And of course, the higher the impact, the higher it goes up the ranks, and the faster the impact comes back down on IT again. So here's kind of some interesting numbers as well. So 29% of IT teams' bandwidth is normally spent dealing with digital performance issues. That's like nearly a third of their time spent just dealing with issues, where they could be spending that time on transformation programs or application delivery programs or whatever the case might be. Certainly more valuable time spent elsewhere potentially. And of course, the associated cost of that is averaging out at $2.5 million per organization. Of course, that number is an average. So if it's a small and medium enterprise, then you might have a much lower bill in relation to managing outages. If you're a global Fortune 500 company and very, very large environment, your bill might be a lot bigger than that. But that's where the average sits. So it's still a big number. And in terms of how we can help reduce things like cost and so on within our SolarWinds solution set, so here's areas we can look at. The first one is consolidation. So if organizations do have lots of different products and tools, some of them might be freebies, some of them might be open source, some might be licensed, some might be SaaS-based. There's definitely an opportunity there to consolidate not just the licenses and subscriptions, but also things like streamlining the renewals processes, having fewer support contacts, fewer training environments that you need to log into, and everybody speaking the same language in a centralized environment. Obviously, a lot of organizations try to reduce the number of vendors they're dealing with as well. So SolarWinds IT Operations Management portfolio can help you to reduce and consolidate all of these areas. Another area we can look at is automation. So again, in terms of kind of streamlining processes, going from monitoring a device, analyzing its performance and availability, alerting on any issues that may occur, and then automatically sending those alerts into a service management tool like ServiceNow or our very own service desk, and getting to resolution. You can automate that entire process, which is nice. You can also do some automated responses as well, which Owen will go through later on in the alerting system and the demo. So another thing we're kind of growing in our products is anomaly detections as well. So you'll see in Virtualization Manager later on a thing called Recommendations Engine, which is kind of an anomaly detector. We've other ones in our database monitoring environments, some in the network side of things, and so on. So you're going to see an increase in the AI ops type of capabilities of SolarWinds products as we go forward in time. And of course, things like automation of security rules and responses to security issues and so on. This is kind of a key one for today, which is optimization. So how can we make sure that all the existing resources that you have are optimized and that you're not overspending on additional hardware that you may not need or additional bandwidth in the networks, for example. Today we look at kind of the system side of things primarily, so looking at the compute resources within the virtualization estate, of course. Improving process efficiencies, so having a closed loop, really critical to this as well. Trying to get to the nirvana of a zero gap policy within an organization. If you kind of do a gap analysis, look at the number of applications you have, devices you have in the network, servers, virtual machines, databases, etc., storage devices, and you analyze, how many of those you have versus how many are being monitored, and so on. You can create a kind of a gap analysis and understand where you may need to look at kind of closing those gaps in the future. And then a big one is cost avoidance. This is where all the big numbers show up because the cost per hour of downtime is quite significant. Gartner did the study, now it's a little bit older, this is back in 2014, they did a study and it was showing a cost of $5,600 per minute on average for IT downtime. More recent research is showing 98% of organizations say an hour is costing them over $100,000 on average. So if an organization does have an outage of a key application or whatever, these numbers can get quite significant quite quickly. So there are some of the opportunities, I suppose, as well as the challenges that people have in terms of managing environments. SolarWinds as an organization this year, we kicked off with our IT Operations Management framework, which you're seeing right here now in front of us. It's got the 6 pillars. So we have our service management offering. And of course, service management, you can have requests coming from any part of the business. It could be HR requests, it could be procurement, finance, legal, and of course, you have your traditional IT requests coming through there as well. We've also got our 4 IT stack monitoring pillars. The application performance management, of course, sitting on the top there because typically that's the one that is most important to an organization, the applications that run the business processes. They will, of course, in turn be supported by databases. Both the application and the database need infrastructure to run. That's where you're going to see your servers and your virtualization estate. This is where we're going to focus in today. And then, of course, everything is glued together with the network. And the network has become obviously very critical this year, given the fact that we have a lot more remote working. And we're also seeing a lot of requirement to have SaaS applications running, which, of course, are outside the control of the actual users typically. And then on the right-hand side, we have our IT security pillar, which permeates across all of those areas. So this is what the SolarWinds offering is. The next slide is a bit busy, but it kind of shows you some, not all, of the capabilities that we have within that ITOM environment and the pillars. So these are not the products, these are just the capabilities within each of those pillars. And on the right-hand side, you also see some of the support and services that we offer, which are key as well as the SolarWinds kind of facts and figures there in terms of our organization. So here's a nice one. I always kind of look at this slide as being one of my favorite ones because it's really a very simple picture, right? We're trying to reduce complexity. Complexity drives up costs. Complexity drives up risk. Complexity stops agility within an organization. And we can do our bit to help to drive down costs, reduce risk, and improve agility through the consolidation, optimization, efficiencies, and so on that we can provide through our solution set. So today we're going to look at the virtualization management. And of course, we have added Nutanix recently to our capabilities in that space. We already had the ability to manage the VMware estates in Hyper-V. And importantly, the product in here, Virtualization Manager, and we'll look at a couple of other ones as well. But Virtualization Manager has that name Manager in the title, which basically means we can manage the estate directly from the Orion console. So within the infrastructure area pillar, I should say, we have these products. So Server and Application Monitor, which can monitor your server estate. And it can do basic monitoring of virtual environments as well. But if you want management of that estate, then Virtualization Manager is key. We've also got Server Configuration Monitoring now, relatively new product in the portfolio, which is getting very popular. That is both a solution to help optimize environments, but also to have compliance and so on. We'll have a quick look at Log Analyzer as well. Now, Log Analyzer is colored in blue there because not only does it allow you to collect Windows events and VMware events if you have Virtualization Manager, it also allows you to collect logs from network devices and so on. Storage Resource Monitor, of course, is in there to be able to optimize the storage environment, provide capacity planning for that as well. And then a few other ones. If you're a bigger customer, you may want to have Enterprise Operations Console, which will help you monitor multiple Orion instances around the world or around the geography. Scalability engines, if you're a growing environment and you want to monitor more devices, more elements, you can add scalability engines to your environment. And high availability, if you want to provide high availability for your Orion server and polling engines as well. So having a look at Virtualization Manager. So Owen, you're the expert on Virtualization Manager within the EMEA community. So do you want to give us a brief kind of run through in terms of what the product is, what it's all about, what benefits you can get from it?
Yeah, most stuff. So with the Virtualization Manager, the idea of it is to allow you to both monitor and manage virtual environments. As John mentioned, previously we were focused on both VMware and Hyper-V, but over the last few releases, we also have introduced Nutanix support as well. Personally, I work as a SE and I cover all of the Orion products, but I do find that the Virtualization Manager is actually my favorite out of all the SolarWinds modules, and it's my favorite for a number of reasons. When you're using the Virtualization Manager, there's such a wide variety of functionality that's available. Not only do you get integration into the usual Orion capability, like integration with AppStack, integration with PerfStack, integration with our alerting engine, but there's also areas that allow you to quickly optimize the environment. You can see on the screenshot here that on the scroll page allows you to see what VMs are both over and under allocated in terms of CPU and memory. With that, and coupled with that, we actually have a recommendation engine as well. The recommendation engine then would even give insight into not only looking at VMs that are poorly configured, but also give recommendations on how they could be better optimized. If VM is being hosted on a physical host, which is, again, running low on capacity or is being overutilized, it can even give options to perform migrations, both to a different host or to a different storage. And as you can see here from the list, there's also a lot of additional powerful actions which can be done. You can take snapshots and delete snapshots within the tool, even carry out, with our alerting engine, a number of actions should an issue take place. Like if there's an issue with a host, you could then carry out an operation to migrate a VM. Or if a VM was to go down, you could execute an alert action to actually reboot it. As you can see here, there's a ton of other options. There's capacity planning, there's a simulation engine built in, and again, I could keep talking for days about why I like it, but what's also nice here as well is we can see in the second screenshot of why customers like it. I mean, straight away, we see that's got a 10 out of 10 result. You can see the pros, single pane of glass, so again, integration with other SolarWinds products, which we'll cover on the call today as well. Able to see VMware Health and predictions, and also that recommendation engine as well, which is very, very powerful.
Good stuff. And of course, if you want to get all of these public reviews of our products, you can jump onto TrustRadius and type in SolarWinds, go to the vendor page, and you see all the products there, and you can get lots of insight in terms of how other people are using the product and the benefits they're getting from that. Another product we'll briefly look at today is Log Analyzer or Log Analysis. The product name is Log Analyzer, and the reason I'm including this one into today's session is because we have integration between this product and Virtualization Manager as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. With the Virtualization Manager and Log Analyzer, what you'll be able to do is to see information on VMware events. Log Analyzer has actually gone through a number of changes over the years. I remember when it was introduced first, it was just focused on syslog and trap data. Then over the next few releases, we introduced VMware events, Windows events, so it is a very, very powerful tool. And again, it's going to work side by side with vMan to give you a wide variety of performance metrics and log data for you to analyze and get a nice overview of exactly what's happening in your environment.
Perfect. So with that, let's jump across to the demonstration. I'm just going to give you the presenter control.
Cool stuff. So everybody should be seeing my screen now. For anyone not familiar, this is what the Orion web console would look like. And if we have a look over my dashboards, these are the different Orion modules which are available. So for the call today, we're mainly going to be focused on the Virtualization Manager, but we will also be covering how it kind of ties into some other SolarWinds products as well, to give you that single pane of glass and to outline how you're able to correlate metrics from multiple different areas that, again, you might be investigating. Starting off with vMan. So if we go to the Virtualization Summary page, what we're going to see straight away on the left is the virtualization assets. Regardless of whether you're running VMware, Hyper-V, or Nutanix, you see there's a number of different layers that we can investigate. So I can expand out this vCenter server. Now I'm seeing information on the data centers, seeing information on the cluster, the host, and on the VMs below as well. What's quite nice is with this, we're going to be introducing a traffic light system. So any issues being reported will obviously be highlighted by a yellow warning icon or a red critical status. So for example, I can see that this particular host has gone into a warning state. I can drill into it. It will allow me to find out exactly what the root cause of the issue is. Alternatively, what we can do is let's focus on just the summary page and let's see if we can find out exactly what's going wrong. And if I wanted to find out what's going wrong, there's a number of areas I can have a look towards. Firstly, it might be just potential virtualization issues, and here you can see so we have a large number of VMs with large snapshots and VMs with memory unreallocated, VMs with a bad tool status. What we also have available on this dashboard is a widget here which will allow us to see all of our active virtualization alerts. So you see here there's 75 alerts. Some have been active for quite some time. So you can see this data store alert has been triggered for over 15 hours. As well as the data store alert, we're also seeing that we're having some issues with high VM utilization. If we navigate to the next page, we can see that one of our VMs has been unable to migrate. We've got some rogue VMs. We've got a cluster with a memory usage issue. So what we're able to see here is that the environment is in a pretty unhealthy space, which, again, for the purpose of a demo is fantastic. But if this was your environment, this would be causing some headaches, I would imagine. So obviously we can drill into any of the VMs, any of the alerts to capture more data here. But what I quite like is that a lot of these alerts can actually be used as a base of a recommendation. So as I mentioned previously, VMan has a recommendation engine built into the functionality. And with the recommendation engine, we have two distinct types. We have an active recommendation. An active recommendation is actually coming as a result of an alert that has been generated within the SolarWinds alerting engine. You'll see that these have this now icon next to them. What we also have is a predicted recommendation, which isn't linked to an alert, but instead is coming as a result of VMan analyzing the environment and giving insight into how it could be better utilized. With this, we're looking to implement 4 strategies, and these are based on things like storage capacity, host performance, workload balancing, and VM sizing. So again, straight away I can see that I have an active alert here, which is showing me that one of my data stores has reached a warning threshold in terms of space utilization. And again, I can just filter down here based on my active recommendations, and I'm seeing some issues on the host that we saw here previously, specifically on a memory utilization problem. So in order to resolve this, what VMan is recommending to do is to migrate one of our VMs to a separate host. And as you can see on the top example here, in order for us to resolve the more kind of critical space utilization issue, VMan is also recommending to migrate this VM to a separate data store. What I quite like is that with this, you can drill into it. It will show you the active alerts that will be resolved once this action has taken place. You can see the steps will be to reallocate the VM to a separate data store. You can perform this now or schedule this to run at a later date. So again, if I start migrating VMs at 20 past 10 in the morning, it might have a negative effect on someone that's working on it. So instead I could say, okay, let's maybe look at tomorrow morning, and let's look at 4 o'clock. Nobody's going to be using it at that hour. You can then see that you can power off the VM first before it's migrated. And we can even get an insight into the statistics, both on the current state of the objects and also what this change will have an impact on. So the projected growth on the new data store, as well as the space reclamation on the existing one. There's a number of policies you can define here as well, like, for example, if you need to block changes on an AD server or remove entities from recommendation, that's all possible. And even within the tool, you can even carry this out on a bulk basis. So it's Friday, if you're just about to finish work, you see there's a lot of alerts being generated from VMan, you're trying to get some easy wins before the weekend. You can see here, we've got a number of active alerts. I could apply the recommendations to each. You can see then this is going to reallocate a VM to a data store. This is going to reallocate a VM to a separate host. I apply the recommendations, and again, I don't have to think about any of the issues then while I'm relaxing. As well as the recommendation engine, as you see, there's also a number of additional powerful features that VMan is able to offer. So for example, there's also a capacity planning engine built in. There's a dashboard which is going to introduce us to VM sprawl. There's a dashboard here which is allowing us to investigate what storage metrics we're capturing. And even within the last release of VMan, we also introduced this chargeback feature. Now, with capacity planning, this is going to allow us to run either a checkup on the state of one of our clusters to predict any future capacity problems. What we can also then do is run through a number of what-if scenarios. Like, what would happen if I add in 5 new VMs onto one of the clusters right now? Do I have enough capacity? So you select the time frame, you select the model, select the VM profile, and this could also be based on one of the existing VMs. So let's say I want to introduce 5 new VMs, select the exact same as this one. For the resources, we'll then analyze CPU, memory, and disk usage. We can outline how much historical data we want to add in. And under the advanced, you can see there's a number of resource allocation models we can define. Whether it's going to be based on peak VM usage, whether it's based on 95th percentile. You can even then define failover reservation as well. So what would happen if I removed one host from that cluster? Again, do I have enough capacity remaining, or is there going to be any immediate issues? When you run through the report and generate it, it will look something like this. So you have a number of tables and charts which you can investigate. With this, you'll see at the top there's insight into VM workload, so the current state of the environment and the projected growth. We also get insight into the host usage as well. So you can see I've got 2 hosts in this cluster that's going to grow by 5. I'm going to add in these 5 new hosts, expect the exact same as this, and the 30 VMs are going to be consisting of 5 small, 20 medium, and 5 large. So we get an insight into exactly what changes are going to take place. What I can then do is investigate if I have enough capacity for this, and will the 5 new hosts actually help me out. So you can then see I've got my CPU usage, so we've got the actual and the simulated trend lines. We also have insight into memory and disk. And again, what I'm seeing here is that once those new hosts are at play, we're going to be in a very healthy state. But if we were having any issues, this would then allow us to find out exactly what the constraint is from adding in more objects into the environment. And then obviously down below here, if we can't meet it, it'll even give an additional host recommendation as well. So if we weren't able to actually add in those new hosts within a cluster, what we might look to do is see if there's any areas that we could optimize. And to do that, obviously we have the recommendation engine that we saw previously, but what we also have is this Sprawl dashboard. And with Sprawl, this is going to give an insight into some additional management tools that are available within vMan. So we saw here we have the option to change memory and CPU resources for any over or under provisioned VMs. If we've any orphan VMDKs, it'll be listed here. And with this, we can even carry an action to delete the file. So as you can see, this JDRA demo3.vmdk is pretty big. So it's taken up over 500 gigabytes. Again, if it's no longer in use, I could carry an operation to delete the file directly from vMan. As well as deleting VMDKs, we can even delete snapshots. So you can see here, this particular VM has over 600 gigabytes worth of snapshots. If I click into this one from here, I might see some pretty old ones. So this one is dating back to 2015. So I'm going to go on a limb and say this is no longer in use. I can delete it, and again, that's going to free up some space. What we can even see here is any VMs that are idle for the last week. So they're powered on, they're consuming resources, but again, they're not really being used. With that, I can power off the VMs. And as well as powering off VMs, if any VMs have been powered off for more than 30 days, with vMan you can even delete the VMs. Again, these are quite powerful actions, so one thing to note is that you can define these actions on an account-by-account basis. So you might have a virtualization admin account within the vMan console. With that, they'll have all the management actions available. If there's like an associate virtualization admin who's new in the job, I'm unsure of what his level is. I don't want him to be deleting snapshots or deleting VMs or deleting data stores, but he might have the ability to change CPU and memory resources. You can, of course, define all those different roles and permissions out within the view. There's a dedicated storage dashboard, as we can see here, which gives insight into both capacity metrics, so data stores by lower free space and predicted data depletion dates on VMs and disks. And you can also see on the right here as well, we are also capturing a number of performance metrics. So top VMs by IOPS, top VMs by latency, top data stores by IOPS, IO latency, amongst some others. And then with the latest release, we have introduced this chargeback feature. So a chargeback, as you can see here, is going to allow you to run a number of reports. So you define the report, you can then summarize the data by cluster or host, you can outline what your target data is, and then you can outline the costings for things like CPU, memory, storage, and vCPU. This was one of the features that was historically available on the old vMan appliance, just in case there's any old school SolarWinds users on the call. With that, we wanted to get feature parity between the old vMan appliance and obviously the new vMan Orion engine, and this is one of the last things that we had to move across. So for any of the I guess kind of retro SolarWinds heads, this is obviously going to be a very nice feature for you to be able to test out. And what we'll see here as well is if we go back to the summary page earlier on at the start. So we're seeing some of the metrics that VMan is offering, some of the functionality, and as you can see up in the top right here as well, we also do have the ability to show information on VMware events. So as you can see here, there's a warning event on this particular vCenter server. There's an error event here saying that it's unable to apply DRS resource settings on one of the hosts. What we can do here is we can actually go in and analyze the logs. This will then give us an insight into what log analyzer would have available. So you can see here there's different kind of levels which we can use to filter. So warning, informational, error. With log analyzer, it does have the option to automatically tag events. So you can see some examples here in relation to failed failover, maintenance failover, and this is just in relation to vSphere alarm. So let's say I look at any of the failed failovers which have occurred recently. So for the last hour, there's been a number. Again, I can drill into it from here. I can see that one of the VMs in a cluster attempted to fail over, but it failed, and it's going to restart after a while. Again, I can drill into it. I can see the source, I can see the vendor, I can see the tag, the event type. With this as well, as you can see, there's a number of additional rules which we can configure. So for example, if this particular use case was to happen, so a failover has failed, what I could do is give it a rule type of failover. Next, you can define a specific source computer. So you can say, I want to just use information from one of my vCenter servers, or for the purpose of the demo, I'm just going to say all source entries. And what I can even do as well is define a specific log entry as well. So it could be a message, a level, a source type. Again, it's going to say all. Hit next. If that rule then becomes true, what you can do is generate an alert within the SolarWinds engine to, again, send your emails or send your SNMP traps. If we don't have the tag pre-built within VMan, you can even then add in a custom tag as well. So you can configure this, add in a custom tag, give this a name of failover or whatever else you want. You can even apply different color schemes here as well. If you're already using the log analyzer, what's going to be quite nice is that you will still have all the existing functionalities, so your analysis of your traps, analysis of your syslog, analysis of your VM or Windows events. But with the Virtualization Manager now introduced into the environment, you'll also then have this new log type here as well, which you can investigate. And again, like this is just showing information from the last hour. You can also then analyze any particular time frame that you want. So let's say last 12 hours and then see all the different logs I'm receiving. With VMan, it is also going to introduce new functionality within the platform as a whole as well. So VMan has direct integration into our AppStack environment. With VMan, it's going to populate data from the VMs and hosts, the data stores, the clusters, amongst some others. And for example, if I saw a data store that's gone into a critical state, again, I can click into it. With AppStack, it's going to allow me to grey out everything that's not associated with it. I can spotlight at the top here just to remove them completely. And if I had SAM running on the same server as VMan, I can see how a data store which is performing quite poorly might have a negative effect on some of my applications, or I might even be able to link it to the backend SAN or NAS device if I was running the storage resource monitor. It's also then going to allow us to investigate a number of different entity types within the PerfStack environment. So I'm troubleshooting an issue. I need a quick way to visualize some data from, let's say, one of our virtual clusters to start off with. I can see that this one is going into a warning state. I can add in my selected items. From here, I can drill into it, plot out any of the cluster metrics which are relevant. Let's say I want to look at average CPU load, congestion of IOs, any outstanding IOs, if there's any storage or performance-related issues. I could even then say like what alerts are being generated during that time frame. If I wasn't seeing any issues specifically on cluster, I can even map out different related entities. Okay, I can see here this is in relation to memory usage, but let's say I want to investigate, is there an issue with the actual host spinning as well? So I can map out different entities, place them onto the graph, and it gives me a number of layers which I can investigate. And straight away I can see 3 out of the 4 hosts are also having issues. So then I can drill into it from here, find any of the memory metrics, which again is going to be relevant for my investigation. And again, it gives me an insight then into not only the kind of trends, but also how long the issue is being reported. So if I want to say last 7 days, I can plot all this out. And again, I can see that it's not a consistent time. So again, the memory issue has been occurring for quite a number of times, but there are some times when it has dropped as well. So this gives me another area which I can investigate. What's occurring during these times? Is it an issue with an application consuming more data? Is an issue with a VM that's particularly busy? And from this view, from PerfStack, I can investigate any of the metrics which I want, place them into the graph, and even if I want to save it for future use, you can even save it and embed it on any of the pre-built dashboards. There's always going to be a large number of customization options available. When you save a PerfStack dashboard, it will look something like this. So the Virtualization Summary. Again, you've all of your nice kind of trend lines. You can interact with the charts to find out exactly what the performance metric was during that time frame. And with VMan as well, there's going to be an extensive list of reports out of the box, and it's also going to have direct integration into our alerting engine as well. We saw a brief snapshot of some of the alert triggers towards the start of the call during John's presentation, and here we can even see some of the pre-built VMan alerts. So issues with VM CPU ready, VMs with high CPU load. You can have an alert here to notify if any VMs have recently rebooted or if any VMs have bad tools. There's an issue with memory ballooning. What you can do is obviously edit the alert. You can define your own trigger actions. Say, all right, if this was to become true, so there's high CPU usage, maybe I just need to send an email. Maybe I want to send a post or a GET request to a web server. As you can see here, we've integrated with ServiceNow and the SolarWinds Service Desk. Or you can even carry out any number of the Virtualization Manager actions as well. So again, very powerful tool. Has integration into the Orion platform. It's going to allow you to correlate data from multiple of our system products. You have all of the functionality like recommendations, chargeback, capacity planning, sprawl, storage monitoring, and then you even get all the nice pre-built dashboards. You have alerting and reporting integration, among some others.
Very cool. And just the phrase of the day on which I kind of had a good laugh was retro SolarWinds heads.
Yeah.
Love that one. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. So I just had an image of all of these SolarWinds people, or people who use SolarWinds sitting around one of these gaming coffee tables playing Galaxians. Fantastic. So listen, thanks very much for that in-depth demonstration. Really powerful. And again, I know it's your favorite product. It's actually one of my favorite products as well. I do love it. And of course, you show the interaction there, or the integration, I should say, also into the Orion platform features like Application Stack or App Stack and PerfStack. PerfStack is really one of these powerful analytical correlation engines that customers can take a huge advantage of. I'm sure you've seen lots of customers kind of creating their own dashboards. We saw some using the PerfStack for creating crisis dashboards during COVID as well, right?
Yeah, I actually saw even a post on TWAC recently of a user creating VPN dashboards within PerfStack, which obviously is very critical now with everyone working from home. It's very just fantastic. The customization options available and just how people are using it to help their everyday jobs.
Absolutely, yeah, fantastic. Okay, and of course, we've talked there about product and features and functions and capabilities and so on, which are all fantastic. But there's also, importantly, kind of services that you guys can access as well, such as your customer portal. So if you're a SolarWinds customer, you have direct access to your own dedicated customer portal, a lovely intuitive web interface where you can see all your current licenses, you can see any upgrades you're entitled to. From there, you can access your SolarWinds Success Center, which is tons of technical documentation and videos and to help you get value out of the product very quickly, because one of the things we like to do as a company is to ensure that you get value from your investments in hours and days, not weeks, months, or years, right? So we want to get you value very quickly. If you want to get some help starting things off, we have the SolarWinds Smart Start program, which allows you to purchase a number of hours of engineering time. And you can get this also through our channel community around the world. And this is really to get you up and running quickly. So to give you that value quickly, get you using the product as fast as possible, because we know everybody's very busy, and any help you can get to get something running is important. If you're on maintenance or you have your subscription up to date, you also get free access to the SolarWinds Training Academy. And in there you get tons of training, whether it's instructor-led classes, e-learning classes. We also run a couple of programs in there, the key one being the SolarWinds Certified Professional. So if you've got technical staff who want to be certified in SolarWinds technologies, we've got 8 badges that they can go and get. And they're some of the top rated badges or certifications, I should say, in the industry. We mentioned TWAC briefly, so you can register on there. You don't have to be a customer to register on TWAC. You can jump on there and join over 150,000 other end users. Our partners are in there. Our product management is in there. Our head geeks are in there. Yes, that is a job title. Product marketing is in there. You can ask questions, get answers. You can put in feature requests. You can get lots of great information there as well. So you have SolarWinds.com, and you've got the TWAC community as well to get access to lots of information if you need it. Also then we have our SolarWinds support. If you have a license or a subscription, you get professional support, and if you have multiple products and you want to upgrade, you can get Premier support and Enterprise support as well. Enterprise being typically designed for larger enterprises who may be running lots of the Orion modules and so on. And for our partners around the world, we have their partner portal as well, where they can access lots of great data. Just to give you an insight, this is a view of the customer portal. So you can see here you have your active licenses, licenses that are expired licenses. You can have your upgrades, your downloads of products, etc. And then from there you can access your renewals, the tech support, education and training, account details, etc. So lots of great things in there. The certification program, the SolarWinds Certified Professional. These are the 8 certifications, so NPM, NTA, NCM, SAM, ARM, database analyzer, I should say, is in there as well. And then we have design and diagnose, which are typically around the Orion platform area. Okay. So with that, thank you very much indeed for your time. Owen, thank you for the in-depth demonstration. That's one of the best demonstrations I've seen from a night in many, many years. So very good, very good.
It's probably the best demonstration you've seen today so far anyway, but thank you.
Multiple years, definitely. So SolarWinds, of course, our mantra, easy to use. I think you saw that in the demo. It's very intuitive, very simple to use, Virtualization Manager, Log Analyzer, and of course all our other products are designed for that as well. Scalability, of course, we want to help organizations to grow with us over time. So if you have to monitor 100 devices or 10,000 devices, we're there for you, and to do all of that at an affordable level as well. Of course, you can interact with SolarWinds and our partners on a single scenario. So let's say you want to fix a problem, you can do that on a modular basis, but you can also then build out a strategy to integrate and consolidate into the single pane of glass platform as much as is possible to get a single pane of glass. And then, of course, you can build a kind of a longer-term strategy around IT operations management as well across the 6 pillars we talked about earlier on in that framework. So, we have the full stack visibility for both on-premise and cloud, so we cover hybrid IT, of course, and we have that comprehensive ITOM portfolio, which we looked at earlier on. So with that, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. We do appreciate it. We're just 45 minutes into it, so not too bad. We'll give you 15 minutes back as we had an hour scheduled. But hopefully you find that useful. We have lots more webcasts planned for the remainder of this year and into 2021 as well. And we look forward to seeing you on those in the not too distant future. Thanks, Owen. Thanks all to Grania Leahy, who's been in the background there moderating us, making sure we're all on time and keeping up to pace, as they say. So thank you. Have a good day, and we shall talk to you again. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.